Welcome back to the Unanimous Decision Podcast. I am your host, DPalm. Follow me on Twitter at DPalm66. Follow the show on Twitter at UDPod. Follow the entire MTR Network at the MTR Network. Our new landing page is out there, udpod.mtrnetwork.net. Use that to send everyone to the site. Like I said, more stuff's coming, but that's our landing page for right now. I know I got some exciting audio and visual and interactivity things coming to the site. It's going to be a very exciting year in 2018. Hope you all checked out our very first edition of Dope Talk. It will not be replacing this show, I promise. The sports show comes every week. But next week, in lieu of our normal show, I'm traveling for a friend's wedding. I'll be in Brooklyn. But I'll be releasing Dope Talk number 2 to one of my really good friends I grew up with, Susan Simpson. You know her name from the Undisclosed podcast and the 45th Pod. She ran an editorial of hers ran in the Washington Post this week, and I was like, well, I should just run this early, but no, then I'd have nothing to run next week. So not as topical, but it's still going to fill that content gap for your boy. You found us, don't lose us. Subscribe in the iTunes store. Subscribe everywhere that podcast is given away for absolutely free. And once you subscribe, you can leave a 5-star review. We'll read it on the air. We have 2 new reviews this week. I want to tell people, if you're leaving reviews, continue to leave them. iTunes is messing up, and I know we're getting our reviews kind of late here. Happened on Super Tuesday, happening also at the Character Corner, which is now on Spotify. Had to stunt just a little bit. If you're going to leave the 5 stars, please leave them. I will read them on the air as soon as I catch them. If you have more you want to say, email us, udpodcast@gmail.com. Before I read the reviews, I want to introduce our guest, friend of the show. He refers to your boy as the Iron Anderson of the internet, which is bullshit. I don't even own a tire iron. What's up, Nata?
Dude, no. Who are you trying to fool here? Who are you trying to fool here? I know you have the tire iron.
Look,
you do a mean fine buster. I'm pretty sure about that.
It's my show. I want to own that.
Yes, you do have to own that. You absolutely have to own that.
Anyway.
Again, you can go talk to Chris. Chris probably agrees with me.
No, see, Chris wouldn't get the wrestling reference. That's the thing.
Oh, true. Very true.
Nah, man, how you been doing, man? Happy New Year, all that good stuff, man.
Happy New Year. As we talk pre-show, I missed the George Clinton show, and I'm probably going to end up regretting it. So outside of that, just been writing stuff on Uproxx. Had the Hornet stuff that I've been writing on. Had the X Games stuff, which I really underpromoted, which we'll be able to talk about later. And I have something coming out this week on the Daytona 500 and a specific racer. The only racer of color, Bubba Wallace. It should be out probably later this week because Daytona 500.
Hold on. The only racer of color, his name is Bubba Wallace?
Yes, it is. Yes, he is.
Yo, like, that's the most undercover brother ever. Like, that's one of those things, like you know when they go down the list for pre-racer, like, that name doesn't even check any of the boxes of should I look at who this is.
Yeah, exactly. You would think. His full name is Darrell Wallace.
That's a Bubba. Yeah, that's a Bubba. Where's he from?
That's a Bubba.
Where's he from?
But he is actually from Virginia.
Yeah, that's a Bubba. That's a Bubba.
Yeah. He is from Virginia. Really good dude. Got to talk to him. Got to talk to Wendell Scott Jr., who was the first full-time black racer in NASCAR. Got to talk to a whole bunch of folks. It's coming out. It's a big piece. I've been sitting on this for probably about the better part of 3 to 4 months now. Actually, no, it's closer to 5. But I've been sitting on this one, waiting for the right time to start working on it, start dropping it, and it's going to drop probably Thursday, Friday of this week. It's going to probably be my favorite piece for a long time.
That's what's up. Look at that. UDPod breaking news, letting people know what's to come in your career, man. That's awesome. The piece I wanted to talk to you about that I read most recently was the Jalen and Jacoby piece. I love this interview. It was up on Uproxx. It'll be in the show notes. How did you – is it just you just being who you are and be able to just work those connections, or how did you land this conversation?
Dumb luck. Dumb luck.
That's a good report right there, y'all. No credit nowhere.
Like the Jalen Jacoby piece, that's again that every certain interview I sometimes will end up being my favorite. That one again, you know what? We'll break some more news. There's a piece, there's a part of the piece that I didn't put in there that Dave Jacoby was about 5 minutes late for that run. So I'm talking to Jalen Rose, and literally, it's I believe it was like the big Snowmageddon, the snow cyclone or whatever it was that week.
Right.
And he's stuck in the middle of it. And mind you, Dave Jacoby's in LA, like talking about, and he's like, yeah, I lost my earbuds. Like, you know how the Apple earbuds and how they're like literally. And he's literally saying, yeah, I lost my earbuds and it took me 5 minutes to untangle my regular headphone cords. Like literally, that was the reason he was late. And then it went to a giant shtick, like that reminds you of their show so much. And getting to talk to him, getting to talk to Harlan Endelman, talking to like literally Jalen Jacoby. I was their first interview. I was their first major interview about their show.
Wow.
Their show's been around 6 years.
7 years, yeah. I remember listening because it started as a podcast into the Grantland, and that's how I fell onto them. And I loved all the interactivity they had with the Tumblr and all the other stuff. And of course, the lanes get kind of crowded and things get pushed out by the side. But it sounds like they're still doing the same things that got into the dance.
No, it's very much the same thing that got them to the dance. And that's the one thing. Like, they made a joke about selling out, and I didn't put it in the piece because it really didn't fit. But they talked about doing that. Like, honestly, they had changed up their formula to a little bit, because for a while they weren't doing guests. For a long while they weren't doing guests, and they started recently doing guests. And that's their aim, is to really not have a guest on their show, is to just, again, the consistency is the best guests for them is just Jalen and Jacoby. This is their show. This is how they become consistent. And to go from a 2 a.m. slot to a 1 p.m. slot, that's a big jump. There's a lot of stuff that you can get away with at 2 a.m. that you're not going to be able to get away with at 1 p.m.
I feel like story time with Jalen might get a little bit truncated.
Exactly. Things that you could, like, and more importantly, with their kind of humor, they're going to be ahead. Like, they're a nice little, they're like the saltine cracker in between tastings. You know how you have those food tastings, and sometimes they get you to taste a sharp brie cheese or something like that. And then you got the blue cheese on the other end of that you want to try. It's like 5 years aged and it tastes really good, but you don't want the flavors to mix. So you get that saltine cracker that goes with it, or you get a wine. That's what Jalen and Jacoby really are. They're that wine that breaks everything up from being a monotonous 4, 5, 6 hour run,
Well, not to get too self-referential, but I'm running, like I said, the interview series, Dope Talking. You find it on the UDPod feed. But I wanted to ask, like, how the art of the interview. People don't realize this. It's hard to balance, decide what to use. I think it's harder in the written interview than the audio, obviously, because there's more editing. Is there any tricks to the trade that you like to bring to the table that I could possibly steal?
For the art of the interview, the one thing I always try to do is be funny. Yeah. It's the first thing. Always be funny, because the big thing about being funny is that way it puts them off guard, and more importantly, it warms them up to you faster. So you got to be interactive with them. And I mean, to be quite honest, like take the Quincy Jones interview per se.
It's called Seamless, kids.
Take the Quincy Jones interview. There were a lot of questions there. I guarantee you there was nothing left on that cutting room floor. And for a Q&A to have nothing left on the cutting room floor, you did a good job. Like literally, that Q&A, I don't even want, like, I'm mad. Like, here's my new thing. If I'm mad I didn't get a chance to interview your subject, you did a good job.
Right. If it was like, I want to crack at this.
Yes, exactly. Like, but because literally, I'm not even sure which one is better. Like the GQ one or the Vulture, because the Vulture one has Quincy telling people, yo, I can't talk about this in public, and it's quoted. It's quoted. Like, how good is that? And the fact that everybody got stuck on that Richard Pryor, the Marlon Brando and Richard Pryor, like, I didn't think it was getting enough run when it first came out. And everybody is like asking again. And then you have Jennifer Pryor, Richard Pryor's late wife, saying, "Oh yeah, that's true." Look.
I'll tell you what. We talk about the art of the interview. I want to buy whoever got these interviews a drink, because it should maybe right person, right place, right time. But man, they got a Quincy Jones who had nothing left to protect.
Nope.
He came out with all the barrels. You're like, I wonder if Quincy's telling the truth. Quincy has no need to lie to y'all.
Exactly.
Except for the Stevie thing. That's the one thing he's not going to come clean about because everyone's made too much money off of it. And I'm not saying Stevie Wonder is 0% blind. I am saying no motherfucking way he's 100% blind. That's what I've always been saying. Hashtag Stevie ain't blind. Y'all know where I stand on that.
No, again, Quincy has nothing to lie about. Quincy has absolutely nothing to lie about. Like, that's the thing. Quincy plans to live to 120 and probably will live in Switzerland with the Nobel Peace Prize winners. I believe him on that. There's nothing in those interviews that I do not believe at this point. Nothing. Is he a little bit messy? Yes. But you know what? He's out of fucks to give. So you know what? I like that. I'm sorry.
To be.
like literally, he's out of fucks to give. If that's not admirable, you know what? You're probably not the type of person I want to hang around. Period.
It's a really good point. Hey, man, so Super Bowl happened last Sunday. We all got to watch the unthinkable occur, the fall of Brady. But let's start with the winning team. And let's start with a couple of reviews. Like I said, I've been getting these reviews, and they've been kind of time delayed. But I do want to read. I'm going to read the innocuous one first.
Okay, let me hear this.
This one's from Magwani. And this, by the way, if you've left a review and you want to update your review, you can leave the 5 stars again. It won't add a new review, but you can leave something else you wanted to write. So he writes, I had to recycle my old review to write this one. See? I'm a simple man. Your show is great. You can cover cricket to make it compelling. Thanks. Come at me, Legions of cricket fans. I don't think I've broached that demographic yet. We'll get there, though. Thanks for the entertainment, D. Palmer. We all live to see Black Panther. Bought my tickets today. I'm going Friday morning before I get on this plane to New York City.
Smart man.
Watch my boy get hitched. This might be painful. The Unanimous Decision is the only sports podcast I listen to. That's it. The NCR Network hit the gold mine when it recruited D-Palm. We're all better for having snatched this first-round draft pick. Thank you. See? That's the kind of review I can get.
Yeah, buttering up the host. That's a good way to go.
Now I have to hurt him. Ain't that some shit? All right. It's not that I want to, not really. I kind of like D-Palm and wish him well in the future. I did, however, listen while he was mostly silent while his guest John went on a 20-minute slander campaign against my Philadelphia Eagles, all caps. That's how they spell it. My city and my fandom. The only reason this is not going to be more painful is that I totally agree with the Deshaun Jackson slander. What sadly D-Palm does not know is that I love my Eagles, but I also have a favorite college football team. Since high school, I've been in love with my team. Since the arrival of Nick Saban, and my love has increased exponentially. It's Wednesday as I type this, so hopefully this will be hurt as much as it would on Tuesday. I need air to hear one thing as on air as reparations for all the Eagle slander. I just want to hear you say that once again, the Saban assistant has fallen to Saban. I need to hear you say, D-Palm, roll Tide. Hey, look, man, roll Tide on that. I got no problem with it. I listen to something to wrestle with. I listen to, hey, it's Conrad. Find different ways to say roll Tide. I'm okay with it. I'll tell you this. You wrote that after Alabama won that shadow game. I'm coming to you after Philadelphia, a week departed from winning the Super Bowl and having y'all's parade. You are who we thought you were. What does that mean? Well, that's what it means. It means Duracell on Twitter tweeted out this. Batteries hold a sacred place in history, Philly fans. Congratulations, Philadelphia, and fly, Duracell, fly. Look, Duracell staying on brand with these call-outs. Multiple reports of Eagles fans taking bites of horse feces. Literally, so happy they're eating shit. I am a fan of many things. I have many problems with the people who agree with me on things. I don't see eye to eye with every Georgia fan. There's one place we do agree upon. There will be no munching of feces. There will be no consumption of caca. That's not happening. I refuse. Look. I saw a video from the Philadelphia that night where old buddy had climbed a light pole and was peeing on the crowd.
Wait. Someone been R. Kelly?
See, he's a Chicago fan. You know that. Don't be rude. No, Philly fans. All this, we're better than that. No, you're not. This is who you are. And as Kelsey said at the parade, that's fine. But let's not hide and lie and, oh, I'm so mad. How dare you portray us in this light? How dare us? How dare you?
I'm legitimately like surprised that people are wondering why Philly fans are in. Like, do we have to go down the list of who they've been? Because we can. It's a long list. It'll take up the rest of the podcast. But again, we can go 90 minutes and go down the list of every horrible thing Philly fans have done. I mean, again, Duracell batteries felt comfortable enough with y'all to say, fly, Duracell, fly.
That tweet dropped at 10:22 after the Super Bowl. Not the next day, not a couple days later. No. They had that tweet ready in the barrel, ready to let it fly like a Duracell battery.
Yes.
Here's how you know things are bad in Philly. The AP tweet the next day said, Philadelphia is cleaning up after his late night street celebrations where some overzealous fans smash windows, climb traffic lights, and trash some convenience stores. That's how I know how trash you are. They had to break out all the white euphemisms for riot. They couldn't just use one. They had to go to get the thesaurus. Tiffany, get the goddamn thesaurus. You've got to describe what happens when white people riot.
Exactly. We can't call this a riot.
No.
How dare we call this a riot?
No. It's a white it. It doesn't translate. I'm sorry.
It's a riot, yeah.
It doesn't translate. Philadelphia is cleaning up after late night celebrations where overzealous fans, monsters, thugs, smash windows for their own community, climb traffic lights, which I don't think that even happens. Anyway.
That doesn't even happen. Like, literally, think about the last couple of big celebrations.
But
remember the Penn State ones? It might be a Pennsylvania thing, for real.
Why are you climbing traffic lights? What's the end? Like, we're going to gum up traffic for days. Like, what's the point? I don't get that one. And trash your convenience stores. Remember, guys, next time that they shoot someone in the street and you want to march for justice, just wear team regalia.
Exactly. Just set your protest for whenever someone wins a championship or a big game, because you know what? You can guarantee that you will not get shot. I hope.
You can also guarantee that the streets of Philadelphia would fall silent for the next 120 years if that was the prerequisite. Oh, talking shit. Anyway, I got out of hand. Reports out of Philadelphia are that Nick Foles called that fourth down play, the throwback pass that people are incorrectly having tattooed on their arms. I don't know if you've seen this. I've seen at least 3 tattoos where they have the receiver start split wide when he's clearly bunched. I don't know what you people are doing. Do you believe the tall tale that Nick Foles called his own play here?
Hell no. You think Doug Peterson, the guy that's been getting the credit for everything, is absolutely letting his players call his own shot? No. Am I letting a backup quarterback call his own shot in the Super Bowl? Hell no. That's the stuff you get roasted for. No way. No way. Absolutely.
Have you seen the NFL films clip?
No, I have not. Not yet.
All right. So the clip shows Peterson says, if you wanted to go for what would you call? And Foles calls it, and then Peterson says, let's do it then.
Really?
I'm thinking that maybe there was a list of fourth down plays or 2-point conversion plays that they had in the bucket and that he dipped into the bucket. I don't like to think that Nick Foles is some sort of weird Madden master, but then again, second guy on the bus, not playing a lot. Maybe he's just gotten that ballsy at Madden. Just like, call the fake. Fuck it.
Like, I have a hard time believing Nick Foles called his own shot on that one.
If I hadn't seen the video myself, I'm watching like the Zapruder film, back into the left. I can't believe it. You're right. The Doug Peterson, but think about it. Doug Peterson, career backup, goes to trust what? A career backup.
Yeah. I mean, the sad part is we both know someone going to overpay ridiculously for this man is going to get ugly.
Well, let's talk about overpaying people, because recently, I don't know if you heard, a certain quarterback received a lot of money for what some would say was insufficient amount of work.
Yeah, Jimmy Garoppolo.
We're talking, of course, about Jimmy G out in San Francisco now, who put up numbers. That's fair. They were numbers.
They were numbers.
Back half of the season, and is now skating to an intensely large contract. Now, without getting into the specifics, because guess what, kids? It's never fun to get into specifics because guess what? The money, guaranteed or not, is always weird in the NFL.
Yes.
Let's just talk about the fact that the market's been set by someone who hasn't played a full season.
Yeah, exactly. Who's 8-0, right? 8-0, I believe.
He took some losses. He had to have taken at least one loss.
No, he hasn't lost yet. That's why everybody. That was the big thing. He hasn't lost a game yet. That's the crazy part.
Well, the crazy
Like,
part to me is that, like, you look at the numbers, and from a sheer numbers perspective, his last 6 games are the same as Colin Kaepernick's were, and one of them can't get on the field.
well, we all know why Colin,
I'm
again,
just,
Colin,
I'm saying that's the arguments that always come that always seem to change are like, oh, he's not ready, or Kaepernick's not good enough, and now people were what, just pretending this didn't happen?
of course they're going to pretend it didn't happen. Okay, come on now. Again, they see Colin Kaepernick as a black mark on the NFL, pun intended, by the way. Again, Colin Kaepernick, the one thing about Jimmy G, I like him. There's definitely not enough. There's not enough proof. And for me, I want to see how he does when he doesn't have a guy that knows what he's doing on offense. Mm-hmm. Because clearly, again, say what you want about Kyle Shanahan. Shanahan can scheme some offense, man. I mean, D. Palm, you know better than most how good he is at scheming offense. Look at the Atlanta Falcons this year.
Why? I can't hear you. What are you doing?
What do you mean?
You're breaking up. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, yeah. That's what I thought. That's exactly what I thought. Mm-hmm. I mean, Kyle Shanahan. I mean, again, Falcons kind of miss Kyle Shanahan this year. It's okay.
Well, that's fine. You missed one coach, whatever. We'll talk about, though. I do want to, the Garoppolo thing. Haven't we seen, particularly like we saw with Nick Foles? He had one great season in Philadelphia. They didn't have to pay him as much, and then things went sideways. We've seen these one seasons or partial seasons parlayed into nothingness. And then again, we just watched Case Keenum, Nick Foles, and Blake Bortles combat for Super Bowl spots in the last 3 weeks. Maybe the key isn't get an overpriced quarterback. It's get a quarterback who's cheap, who's good. Like, hey, remember Seattle's run when we said it was going to end when they had to pay Russell Wilson? Guess what? The fact that Tom Brady decides to spit in his union's face by taking as little money as he does, it doesn't make him a good teammate. It makes him a shitty union member because because that's the scary thing. This market should be even more inflated.
Pretty much. Like, literally, that's the thing. It's going to be really interesting to see what Drew Brees does. And then when another guy that's going to get overpaid for mediocre work, Kirk Cousins sets the market, you're going to have guys like Aaron Rodgers and Cam Newton being like, yo, y'all see what they're doing? You see what they're getting paid? I want some of that too. And that's going to be the most interesting part to this whole thing is because when you start seeing, again, Kirk Cousins might get $90 million guaranteed after what Jimmy G just got. Think about that. $90 million guaranteed for a guy that's been mediocre for years. And why? Because Washington was too stupid to give him a long-term contract because they were unsure. So they traded for Alex Smith. Think about that for just 1 second. Wrap that around your head. Because it does. If it makes sense in yours, well, then you know what? Please pass whatever drugs you have because it doesn't make any sense in mine.
Let's talk about another thing that's happened on the other sideline. So, as we all mentioned last week, as everyone knows, has been the main story ad nauseum has been Malcolm Butler not playing in the Super Bowl. And, of course, the initial story was that he had missed some curfews or gone to a concert, come back stoned, and that's why he didn't play. And you got to see a lot of reporters take that story and run with it. No one noting that maybe the source of these reports were one Patriot place. Malcolm Butler released a statement on Instagram, and if you know me, I hate words on picture sharing apps. But he stated that he was not late. He was not late for any curfews. He was not intoxicated, and that anyone saying otherwise is a liar. And then he got 14 likes, including one from zero-time Patriot of the Week, Tom Brady. Now, I think that's the best part of that big story. I ask you now, is this a case of we're never going to know the truth because it's just going to be people screaming and Malcolm Butler's gone anyway? Or is it something larger that speaks to some of those cracks that have been mentioned in the foundation in Foxborough?
I'm waiting for people like the Boston reporters to, start apologizing to one Seth Wickersham who kind of called all this at some point. That's the first step. The second is, I don't know if you saw it, but Lane Johnson had a quote, and he makes a lot of sense. He was like, I'd rather have a lot of fun and just win one Super Bowl than be miserable and win 5. And at some point, we may have to acknowledge that Lane Johnson might have a point there. Like, you can win all the time and be miserable, but you know what? That's only going to shorten your shelf life and your life expectancy anyway, due to stress, dealing with Bill Belichick and dealing with Tom Brady's trainer, who's probably trying to get another client. Lord knows that's got to be fun living in that, again, having that be your workplace for God knows how long. It's like working in a call center and someone also does, what is it, that flat tummy tea sales on the side. That's basically what it is. Like, I can't imagine just how much, like, how joyless that existence must be. And for Malcolm Butler to basically be unfairly slandered by the same Boston media that happens to have plenty of racial issues. Hi, Christian Fourier. Like, literally, just, yeah, that's the Don Yee thing. That was, like, literally. They have so many issues, and like, at some point, maybe we just need to realize that winning 5 ain't everything. Winning 1, yeah, cool. Making a whole bunch of money and then getting out with your head intact, maybe even better. So you know what? Look, the Patriot way isn't for everybody. It's been proven, and maybe we need to stop idolizing it. Enjoy the dynasty for what it is, and leave it at that.
Well, it clearly has some allure for some people because Josh McDaniels was all set to become the newest head football coach in Indianapolis. He begun assembling a staff. He would either sign deals to join the Indianapolis staff or at least have given notice to their current situations. In the 11th hour, and by 11th, I mean, I don't even know, like, we're past 11th.
11:59.
Like,
11:59.
This is ridiculous. The 11th hour in technicality only. He backed out of the deal, decided to re-sign with New England where, quote-unquote, Bill Belichick will be teaching him about roster construction and salary structure, which, bitch, how have you not been learning this before now? Like, what are you doing? And left a lot of coaches in a lurch. There's part of me that wants to echo a very, 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 very good tweet that I saw this week.
Oh, the Sage Rosenfels one?
Sage Rosenfels tweet. Because he pointed out some hypocrisy here because while these coaches have been wrong, these coaches who were following in the wake of Josh McDaniels' decision were probably left in a lurch. Sage Rosenfels tweeted, I wonder how many times in their franchise's history the Colts have released a player who was under contract and who they promised would make the team, then didn't, then had uprooted his family. Welcome to the life of one of your players, Colts. No one's denying the veracity of that quote, I don't think. That is an accurate juxtaposition of the macro situations that happen and how they affected now in a micro one coach, and how it's supposed to feel differently because his title's different. I don't know. I will say this. Holy shit, this better work, Josh. Because you can't coach anywhere else because no one will work for you. This was some snake in the grass nonsense. And normally I will laugh at the man who's full of bluster during a press conference. That coach GM has every reason to be upset because now he has to go find a new coach who's okay with some of the hires he's already made.
Yeah.
You made this man's job super hard. And guess what? Maybe you gave him a little job security, yeah, but I don't think it's worth the ulcer it's developing as we speak.
No, it's not. And the funny thing is, Frank Reich literally is the reported guy, and he's got a whole bunch of guys that he can't bring on defense. Because why? Because the Colts honor contracts. Because you know what, the Colts, despite the fact that they have Jim Irsay as an owner, happen to be a fairly decent franchise. And as far as Josh McDaniels goes, like his agent even dropped him on this one. Think about that. His agent, who's probably set to get a big pay bump once McDaniels becomes the official coach, and you would think that at some point it would get into his head to be a better people person, because being a bad people person is what got him out of Denver in the first place, along with drafting Tim Tebow in the first round. Let's not forget that mistake. But I would just, like, there's certain things about this guy that seem like him and New England will be a perfect marriage in heaven, because they're both horrible people. They know how to spin stuff in the media. And when him and Brady argue at age 45, whether he's fit to start at whenever Bill Belichick decides he wants to live in Florida with Jimmy Johnson, whatever happens, when that massive blow up happens, I just want to see who's going to win out. The guys that trust McDaniels in the media or the guys that Brady can go to in the media, because that's going to be the most important Like, this is going to be the most important media fight we've seen in a long time that doesn't involve the NFL union and the NFL owners.
Well, I think you're right. That fight's going to be really bloody. A fight that could be bloodless, but it's going to be just as interesting, is the fact that you got to understand people, particularly when you get to the coach's side, there aren't that many agents working in that space. And the fact that Bob Lamont left Josh McDaniels is a big deal because Bob Lamont's other clients, one of them includes Coach GM Chris Bauer. Who else does Lamont have on the roster? Great question. John Gruden, Doug Peterson, Andy Reid, Howie Roseman, Rick Spielman, Tom Telesco, and a boatload of others. What that tells
and Frank Reich, by the way. I would add.
But what that tells me is that it's going to be a big problem for that whenever this overturning happens in New England, and I do believe it's coming sooner than later. You don't stay for a promise of a maybe. You stay with a date. And it's going to be interesting to see if the attractiveness of New England will supersede the fact that Brady's getting old, the fact that McDaniels is only 41, and to make this decision, the next few years could be very dicey for McDaniels. He tries to build back some collateral in a very insular community. I talk about Gisele Bündchen. Lost the Super Bowl on last Sunday. She told her 5-year-old child that sometimes that they had never won one and that sometimes you had to let the other people win one so they too could feel good. I never thought I could like the Bündchens less, but here we are.
What kind of when I heard that, I was like, what kind of 1% stuff are you trying to say here? Now, granted, there are certain things that I do appreciate Gisele Bündchen for. One, again, being the first model to instead of wanting to be paid in dollars, she ordered them to pay them in euros and stuff like that. Like, there's certain things like that she has done that's very admirable. But between this and then the Tom can't throw it and catch it himself. Well, we kind of figured that out.
I like that. That's what she rides. That was spicy. That means she rides for her husband. I like that one.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's certain things that like she rides for her husband, but this one was just so clueless. But you know what? If you can be rich and clueless, generally you get away with it unless you're black, you know?
White failures are actually compassionate victories. Isn't that?
Yes, they are.
Isn't that amazing? All right, speaking of white failures, the Winter Olympics kicked off in South Korea. Mr. Mike Pence, who says you can't politicize the sports, refused to stand for the Korean entrance because you can't politicize sports. Mother just wouldn't let him stand. And I always joke that the Winter Olympics are the White Olympics or the Country Club Olympics because just as a study, there are 2,952 athletes competing for the world in these games. 41 are black. I always say the Olympics are they preach equity in the games, that everyone has access to them. And that's largely true. If you've got an oval, you've got a track. If you've got a field and a ball, you've got soccer. If you've got a timeshare in Switzerland and lift tickets, you've got a ski career. And I know you spent some time at the X Games. Now, I got to ask, how do you decide to do the Winter X Games backed into the Winter Olympics, or is that the plan?
That was the plan.
All right,
that was the plan for the whole. That was the plan because that way you could get a lot of the Olympic guys that needed time, like the kid Red Gerard, who I was supposed to talk to for my X Games piece. Like, I was supposed to talk to him, but literally he was just busy and like those guys have a serious run from like literally, I want to say from November on till they go on a serious run to qualify for these Olympics. They'll use the X Games as a way to keep sharp. But one thing I would note is that these guys have not only like lift tickets and everything else, these guys have coaches. These kids are brought up from, I want to say, as early as 7 or 8. And these kids basically eat, sleep, drink, snow.
It's a job.
It's a job. Full-time job. A lot of these kids are homeschooled, have very little like interaction with other kids and everything else like that. It's like being a figure, like it's one of the craziest existences. And unless you are in that, I wouldn't even call it the 1%. I'd say unless you're in that upper crust, that 5%, there's generally no way that you can actually afford this. There's no way. Absolutely no way. And the fact that there's only 41 black athletes doesn't necessarily surprise me. That's why I was rooting for the Nigerian bobsled team for the little I've watched of it. But I just like we just need to call the Winter Olympics the Privilege Olympics and leave it at that. Everybody else joins the party during the summer, and that's when we ironically see the most complaining.
That's because certain people aren't featured in certain places, and that's why certain people complain.
Yeah, very true.
Speaking of complaining, college football signing day came and went this year without the normal, like there wasn't psychosis. I wasn't getting live look-ins at fax machines. It felt a little bit more sedate. That's because the early signing period was rolled out this year. And I'm of two minds. Part of me says, I like that there's not as much pressure on this day. But Nata, like you and I we're not young. Like we're not stupid. We recognize that these kids who are signing might be signing in the situations where the coach isn't there anymore, and that's a still binding deal.
Yeah, that's the crazy part. Now, the one thing that bugs me about I'm of two minds of it as well. Like I like it because if you hold them, like the early signing day is one of those things. Like if you're like a 2-3 star, you're gonna gonna get in on the ground floor. Now, granted, you're probably not getting offered anything on that first signing day. But the big thing about that big thing about it is that you still have to stay on your grind no matter what. Like if you can make them stay on the grind, you can make them work, you can make them do whatever you need to, then cool. But it's one of those things like if you got them signed, then you can be lazy for the rest of the time. Like I don't like the fact that it locks these kids in, and it goes back to the moms again. And I know we were going to talk about this, but the mom, I felt bad for her in that instance because again, you know how much pressure like she was putting on that kid to sign to either Alabama or Tennessee, which again, how you have Alabama and Tennessee apparel on with like it doesn't make any sense, especially since it's like being a Phil Fulmer fan and then being an Alabama fan at the same time. It just doesn't work at all. Do you not know?
Cleared, it works. Now we'll talk about Jalen Copeland and his mom in a second, but I do want to talk about the followed-up signing day. As I've mentioned on this podcast ad nauseum, I am not the biggest recruit guy. I believe that what you do when you're on the field, on campus, is what counts. What you did, how many stars some guy with a notebook gave you doesn't matter as much to me. I will say this. Holy shit, Georgia. Georgia completed on Wednesday the number 2 class of all time.
Yeah.
All time. Georgia signed more than twice as many 5 stars as the rest of the SEC combined. Florida and Tennessee are supposed to come in with all this atmosphere and all this new coach blood. 14-20 nationally. Not a good look. Michigan had an atrocious signing day, losing people to Ohio State left and right. I'm not sure what's going to happen there. I did not.
Harbaugh's leaving. At some point, we have to.
Honestly, I don't know who coaches next year.
Like literally, Harbaugh. Like, I guess I don't get this about Harbaugh. Like, if you're gonna leave, now would be the really good time. Except there are no coaching availabilities. Wouldn't you have to leave soon before they fire you and they realize being a Michigan man ain't always the way it plays out? Like, I don't trust. Like, if you're Harbaugh, you gotta be looking for the first door smoking, right?
I cannot believe he's still there. I honestly feel like it's not going to be great. And I do want to mention one thing here: Clemson. Clemson pulled in 17 players on National Signing Day this year. Last year they pulled in 14. That's 2 classes of 31 total players. They're hitting at a tremendous rate, and I don't know how they're doing it. But I'll tell you what, 31 recruited players to be your senior and junior classes in 2 years, that's not going to get it done in the SEC, in the ACC, and particularly if you're looking to compete on a national stage. Not just the top-end talent, but the depth. These seasons are long, and at the second half against Alabama in a playoff game, you're not playing your firsts and their freshest. You're playing your seconds, and they're pretty tired too. And Alabama's seconds are consistently better, and that's why this Clemson approach, it's working. They're making playoffs. They're crushing the ACC. But if I'm a Clemson fan, I've got to look at those numbers and be a little uneasy.
No, you would think so. You would absolutely think so. And it also buys credence into the fact that, hey, maybe Dabo knows something about Alabama in about, 3-4 years, and he may not be there And again, if Saban leaves, we all know who's getting that call first. It's not going to be Kirby. It'll be Dabo. They're gonna beg Dabo to say no, and then it'll be Kirby. But I like it's again, I do worry about that depth issue because we saw it bite them this year. I mean, Kelly Bryant, I don't know. Like with that quarterback situation scares me, and that's the thing I think that'll end up holding them back if they lose this year too. Is because I'm not sold on Kelly Bryant, and I think there needs to be an honest quarterback competition going into next year.
Well, that's what gets me about Clemson is that when you recruit so lightly, but you do so well, you're an injury away from having a disaster of a season. Look at Florida State. Like I think that again, hey, I don't recruit for a living. Dabo Swinney's done a very good job making money at that school. And maybe I'm underselling what he's able to do there, but it makes me nervous just seeing the numbers written down. Let's go lastly to my favorite place in the world. Oh, no, let's not. Sorry. I want to go there next. I skipped the story in the Olympics, but I guess I'll say that for next week or a quickie or something. Michael Smith let the chopper go this week, didn't he?
Yeah, I was wondering if we were going to talk about that.
Oh, we're talking about it. This is what the card is subject to change, my friend. Me, and Jerry Jarrett out here just changing things on the fly. You don't get what you pay for, but you're going to get a show. So, Michael Smith came in, and a lot of the questions a lot of us had about things changing at the 6, things changing at SportsCenter, Jamel Hill leaving SportsCenter, it feels like they were kind of answered.
Yeah, they were. And it's funny. I listened to that entire podcast. I listened to Michael's part specifically, and I heard a lot of stuff that I wasn't necessarily surprised about. He said one of the big things he did say was that 95% of the complaints were by people that weren't watching the show and weren't hearing the content. I could tell you I knew it was going to change the minute Jamel got suspended. I was worried about it then. When he unloaded and let it go, unloaded the chopper, I kind of knew basically that the 6 for what it was is going to go away. It's just a matter of time. I'm grateful they made it a year because when Jamel left, basically it was a day short of a year from when I had first gotten there, and that was kind of bittersweet for me because literally they had been practicing and I'd done some of the rehearsal parts just to get their timing down for the prompter and everything else like that and what I was doing down there. And a lot of it, like you could almost tell that and they were right. And he was absolutely right where there was less commentary, less chance of they were trying to mitigate any kind of comment being made about race and everything else because they let people like Clay Travis and they let people that don't want black views espoused, they let them win, which makes me really nervous for other people's shows, particularly Bo and Pablo's. You're not going to be able to discuss race if you can't have an honest discussion about it. If we're going to be dishonest about it.
I think what's wild is that they weren't even discussing a race. They were it was their personalities and their viewpoint that they brought to the show. And I woefully didn't get to catch the 6 as much as I would like to because my commute is hell. But I think it's sad that it got to this point that I could see ESPN suspending Smith over this. I listened to the parts of James Andrew Miller's podcast. And for those who don't know who that is, he actually wrote the oral history. Those guys have all the fun. Oral history of ESPN. Great book. I recommend it. But to use the language he used, to name the names that he used, to point out the timeline that he made, I've seen ESPN suspend for less.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I'm worried about. And again, there's a lot of people that I respect and I like that still work up there, that still do good work up there. And the fact that he's letting the chopper go, and it's not just one. I've seen, again, he's doing all these podcasts. He's going on a podcast spree right now.
He's doing the opposite car wash.
Exactly. He's not doing the Bristol car wash. He's getting his viewpoint out now, which if you read the tea leaves, y'all better enjoy the 6 while it's still around, or what's left of the 6 while it's still around. And quite frankly, the minute that they stop doing the Golden Girls opens and the different world opens, the minute they stop doing that was the minute I knew that that show was going like literally
any other sports center.
Yeah, it was meant to be different. It was meant to be something that was going to break it up. It's similar to the discussion we had about Jalen and Jacoby earlier. Like that was the big thing. It was going to be different. It was going to be stories told from a different perspective. Like it was a good day segment that they added well after I was gone. Was a brilliant idea, absolutely brilliant. And the fact that we cannot, like, for some reason, the minute we go to different and people want to react a certain way just bugs the hell out of me, because it just means you want formulaic stuff that you cannot handle nuance on a TV format. I mean, this personally hurts a lot because I worked on the show.
Right.
And those guys are some of the greatest people, the Jasmine Alexanders, the Talia Wilkinses, the Michael Smiths, Jamel Hills, Chika Okafor, guys like that, folks like that are good people. They get their stuff done, they work hard, and they deserve that 6 o'clock spot. Michael and Jamel deserved it long before his and hers was running, running basically on full steam. And the fact that that people could not appreciate it annoys the hell out of me. Like, it drives me nuts.
Y'all saw him drop all those names in my head, right?
Yeah.
Y'all saw those names get dropped in my head. Just so everybody saw that. I just got picked on my own show one more time. All right. I see you. Hey, it's a quick update. We talked earlier about what's his name, Christian Farina being racist, trying to
Christian Fourier,
he got suspended 5 days. He's issued an apology. I just heard this, so nothing changes. It's still Boston, go Boston. Let's talk about the greatest day in NBA history, because when I wrote this breakdown the first time, I was like, we'll talk about some trades if they happen. And like an hour later, Rose was like, hope your phone's ready. The Cavaliers blew it up. And by blew it up, I mean blew it up. LeBron has been saying he needs more help. LeBron has been saying that he knows what a winner looks like, and this hasn't been it for the last year and a half. And finally, it looks like mostly the Cavs said, you're probably right, LeBron. And for people who say, oh, LeBron's being draconian or LeBron's making himself look bad, hey, it looks worse than manipulating the team? Not winning.
Dude, you tell me, like, honestly, this is the thing. Like, they're like, LeBron wants to win. No shit, really. Everybody wants to win in the NBA. You know why? Because you get paid that way. You get endorsements that way.
What's about winning? The guy's been in the last 8 finals.
Exactly.
And spoiler,
and if
he's going in this spring.
Yeah. Like, because literally,
people are saying that ball-dominant guards are great players that want to play with him. Hey, if you don't know your place and do what he says, you're not going to fit in. Sorry.
And more importantly, LeBron is probably one of the most brilliant basketball minds this league has ever seen. And the fact that people feel the need to say, oh, he doesn't know what he's doing, he shouldn't be the GM. Well, they're partially right, but he's still smarter than you. And he knew that this team was basically the Expendables. So he took this cast of the Expendables and he turned it into the cast of Fast and Furious. Basically, he got a lot younger, a lot faster, and a lot better on defense.
These names you may not know, but they're here to work. They may not be the names you know. There's no Isaiah Thomas. You remember Channing Frye? The list of players leaving Cleveland looked like a deadspin. Hey, remember some guys from the 2000s? Like, that's the kind of post it was. Let's break down the trade.
Hashtag he's still in the league.
Yo, I saw Jameer Nelson made our guy traded this week. First trade out of Cleveland, the Cavs sent Isaiah Thomas, Channing Frye, and a protected 2018 first-rounder to the Lakers for Clarkson and Larry Nance Jr. Now, is that the Brooklyn pick?
No, it is not.
That's what I thought. That's what I like to hear. Yo, they may have gone a long way into keeping LeBron James. I know part of the joke was they helped the Lakers clear the space to sign LeBron James. They've gotten him a younger supporting cast that he has never, ever, ever had in the NBA. When he got here, Cleveland tried to build a team around him with middle-aged guys trying to win a ring. When he got to Miami, it was an older team. Cleveland's been the oldest team in the league the last 2 years, and it just got scores younger. What were you saying?
More importantly, like you said, the Brooklyn pick stays with them.
Amen.
So that means either you have probably a top 10 pick, maybe even a top 7 pick. You have a top 7 pick in which you can in probably one of the deeper drafts, because this draft probably goes 8, 9 deep, probably.
You can turn that into a player this offseason immediately.
Or you just draft them and let them learn from LeBron.
Ugh. I don't trust NBA rookies. Sorry.
Nor should you. But here's the thing: if you were going to develop a rookie, who's the best player to probably put him around to learn the game?
Amen to that. Next trade out of Cleveland: Jay Crowder and Derrick Rose went to the Jazz. Iman Shumpert and a 2020 second rounder went to the Kings. Rodney Hood ended up in Cleveland. Joe Johnson to Sacramento. Kings trade George Hill to Cleveland. George Hill to Cleveland is a piece I've always thought would fit really well. I thought Jay Crowder would go better there. I'll be honest. Apparently, it wasn't a personality fit. Derrick Rose apparently is already being bought out because Derrick Rose is now Derrick Rose's corpse.
So is Joe Johnson.
Joe Johnson is a legend.
Joe Johnson, again, legend at the bank.
Whatever.
That man is.
Where do you want to be a legend? That's what I thought. Joe Johnson is a legend. Overpaid, never scrutinized. Mwah, mwah. Beautiful, Joe. Stay in the league, keep getting them checks. But George Hill, I think, is a great piece. Derrick Rose, look, that MVP y'all gave him because you were sick of awarding LeBron looks worse every second on the court and off. The next deal out of the Cavaliers, Dwayne Wade got shipped back to Miami for a protected second-round draft pick and a bag of basketballs.
Hey, man, we got a sentimental moment out of it Friday night. That's the only thing.
In the Miami Vice throwbacks.
Yes. Like, literally, we got a sentimental moment out of it. So, you know what? I can only say so much about that. But the big thing with the Cavs is now that you can switch on defense, and that's the big thing. It's going to be a little bit easier to play teams like Boston. It's going to be easier to play slightly easier to play against teams like Golden State. Is Golden State eventually going to buzzsaw you up and dice you up into little pieces? Probably, but they're going to do that to everybody in the league. The big thing was they could go 1 through 5 right now, and they can have a matchup in which they play Nance at the center, Bron at the 4. They can go. Again, they can go multiple different options, probably J.R. Smith at the 3, go Clarkson and Hill at the guards, and basically switch with everything and go 1 through 5 and make it work. Or if you don't like Nance at the 5, you go Tristan Thompson, and Tristan Thompson won't be a liability because they can still spread out the floor.
They built a team that's pretty much built for LeBron, and they're gambling saying that we can keep him in Cleveland because look at the rest. You go west, you got to deal with Houston and Golden State before you get to a finals. Where the hell is he going to go in the East? Philadelphia? Markelle Fultz can't find the basketball court. He cannot step onto a basketball court. Do you want to trust your long-term health to the people who've mismanaged Joel Embiid, who ruined Nerlens Noel, and who cannot figure out what's wrong with Markelle Fultz? I think ye not. The Cavs have any shot, as good a shot as anyone, to keep him. These moves made
better than everybody else, because here's the thing: they kept that Brooklyn pick.
That Brooklyn pick was it. If they could do what he wanted, he'd have been happy. If he could do what he wanted and keep the Brooklyn pick, he should be ecstatic. Let's look at some other trades that happened that I have questions about. The Hawks trade Luke Babbitt to the Heat for Okaro White, who I don't believe is a real person. I can't find anything on him on the internet.
I've seen him play before. He's actually real.
The Pistons traded Willie Reed in the 2022 second rounder to the Bulls for Jameer Nelson, who's being reunited with his favorite kid, Stan Van, in Detroit. So Jameer Nelson's still in the league. Bryce Johnson got traded from the Pistons. If everyone remembers, Lonzo Ball could not get past Bryce Johnson in Summer League. And also, for the record, the Cavaliers gave Dwayne Wade to the Heat for protected second-round draft pick, which can be turned into a 2020 pick, which means that the player can be traded for as an 8th grader right now. Oh, no, damn. There's some way.
It'll never transfer.
There's some way that one of the players traded to the Cavs could actually be LeBron James' son. It's pretty amazing.
No, it'll never transfer. It'll never transfer. I can guarantee you that.
The Raptors are my favorite trade of the night. Bruno Caboclo to the Kings for Mikhail Richardson. Those aren't real people.
No, Bruno. No, if you remember, Bruno was the guy Fran Fraschilla said was 3 years away from being 3 years away.
So high praise.
Yes, very high praise, and he was a first-round draft pick too. Ironically, that was one of the few Masai Ujiri miss picks,
This is
Everything
why I
else,
hate the NBA draft. It's all a crapshoot.
yeah, it is.
There's no
Very much.
translation anymore, and I sound like an old man. Nata, man, thank you for coming on and hanging out with us, talking a lot of sports. Tell everyone where they can find your stuff.
Well, first things first, Uproxx.com. You just put Uproxx, again, do the Google search, Uproxx and Konata Edwards, and you will find my page. RSS feed will update automatically. If you're still doing RSS feeds, if you are, please. If not, follow me on Nata the Scribe. I forgot which piece I have up. It still might be the Jalen and Jacoby piece on my pin page, but new content coming out. Obviously, we talked about it earlier. Bubba Wallace piece is going to be out this week, probably later in the week. And as always, maybe you'll catch me here on D Palm Show, Undisputed Podcast, because it is one of my favorite listens. Even despite the fact he gets a whole bunch of stuff wrong. I'm sorry, Arn. Don't take your tire iron out on me, please. That's all I need. Just no tire iron. I can't afford a concussion right now. I promise.
You know what I've never gotten wrong?
What have you never gotten wrong?
The name of this podcast, the Unanimous Decision Podcast. I'm your host, D Palm. Follow me on Twitter at DPalm66. Follow the show on Twitter at UDPod. Follow the entire MTR Network at the MTR Network. Subscribe in the iTunes Store. Subscribe everywhere podcasts are given away for absolutely free. That was your show. This is your outro. See you guys next week.